Hello. Hello everyone. Today we will look at uh, Python. So we have learned so far. Let me open. This is IPython. So we have learned so far. We have say integers, right? It can be it doesn't have to be a single digit, and we have learned floating point with a decimal point 2.5, or it doesn't have to be single digit after the decimal point. And we also have strings. We can be like a, or it can be our hello world, multiple words. It doesn't have to be single digits. It can be a combination of letters, right? So we have all these different, Python objects. So now, is it possible? So I know I can look at it and say, oh, this is an integer, this is a floating point number, this is a string. Is there a way for us to ask Python and tell, hey Python, would you please tell me what type is this, what this object is? So for that, what we do, we can have something called type, right? And we'll pass into type. We'll say passage to the first one. That yes, that is an integer, and now we can take the second one and see what does that give. So, yes, again it's an integer. So int as an integer, and here is a 2.5, right? So I can say type. Oh, it's a floating point number and float object, and we have again. Let's see what it says. So you're right. It again gives float, and again we can go and ask for what type is a. I can say string, str as in string. And again, let's do hello world. Again, to mention, we can have single quotation or double quotation for string. So you need to be consistent on the left and right side. If you open with a single quote, close it with a single quotation. And again, let's go to as what is the next guy. So we have here this guy. So what that would be? Yeah, string. So we know now how we can ask Python to tell us what an object is. So now there will be scenarios where, for example, I may want, for example, to say I ate, I want to concatenate 2, right, plus bananas, right? So if this is my sentence, I want to fill it with the 2. So this won't work, right? Because I ate is a string, bananas is another string, and 2 is, it's an integer, right? So it won't work. So is there a way we can say take this 2 and make it as a string so that I can concatenate with another string? So we can do it is we can pass it as a string type. So string, so let's call this a function for the time being. It's a so you can pass it to str. So string. So it gives me what? String. So now we can check for, if you want, type, right? How do we check type of the whole thing? What is this thing is? So let us see. It's a string object. So now I can take this and let's say that works, right? I can take this and I can pass 2 to the string, and let's see if that works. So what it is, so let us see. Yes, now it works, right? So now what we have done, yes, we have taken the string I ate and we have taken bananas, and and we converted the 2, which was an integer object, and made it into a string and concatenated 3 different things. So 3 objects, 2 strings and 1 integer, now which is an integer. So now if you want to look at, we can ask what this whole thing is, what it would be. It's a string. Yes. So that's it. So I can convert. Now what we did, so we did a simple thing. We took an integer and we made it into a string object. So now your question is that, oh, I have a floating point number. It may be like, I may want to write same, for example, I can say something like the interest rate, right, equal to, if I want to compare, equal to 2%, right? Say 2, say 0.02 is 2%, right? So now again there's a trouble, right? So I want to again convert this, which is a float object, which we can check, right? Type, which is float. If I convert that, now if I want to convert, how do we do? If I want to convert that into a string, again same procedure, right? String, and I take 0.2. So now here 0.02. So now I can go back again. If you want to check that type is this, I can pass on to the same way we did it earlier, right? All right. So now let us go back. And what was our sentence? This is my sentence. So I can say, how do we do it? I'll say, I take that here and I say I please Python make it as a string, and that's it. It worked. So we can do that. So I can, for example, I can, for example, remember our. So we can say print, right, compound interest equal to, for example, right, I can take, say, plus, what is our formula, 2000 times 1 plus 2%, right, say power, say 2 years minus 1, right? This won't work as you guessed. So what we do, so we take this guy, and why it wouldn't work, right? Because you know that this object here, right, what type is that? It's a float object. If you don't want to check by visually, if you want to inspect, it's a float object. So that is not working. So what we do, we again make to go back here, right? And then I can make it into a string. I pass it to a string. So it's now, right? So now I can ask, for example, what type is this whole thing is, right? I can take this whole thing. It's a string object. So we have this string and this string together makes another big string. So that's so the whole thing that we learned so far is very simple thing. So we took a 0.2 and made it into a string, or we took or an integer and made it into a string. So we converted a string, integer, and floating object. We converted into string object, right? So now, of course, suddenly you are also thinking about it, right? So suppose I have an other way around. Say I have 2 plus, and I say I got, I maybe from somewhere I read some file or something. I got this. I have a 2. I want to add it to another string. So I can't do that. So saying on the same token, so what we do, we can convert it into an integer object. So I take that 2 and I take that, and so now what we got something looking. So we can, if you want to make sure, now what I can do, I can go here, I can say make this into an integer, and then you got it. So in a similar way, so we can also do, for example, 30,000 plus. I can say, for example, if I say I have the 2.5, I want to, and this is a string object. Now I can't do that. So what I do, now it's a float object, right? So I can again do the same thing, string, right? Sorry, this is string object, but we want to convert into a float. So we converted a string into a float object. So, and then we added. So this whole thing now has become what? Floating point object. So we have what all we did. So we did integer. Now we did a string. We converted into integer, and we also converted into float, and we provided and we did some calculations. And in a similar, say now, so we have done this both ways, right? We have done this way, and we have done this way too, right? So we have done either way. We had some string, and we converted into integers and float, and backwards. So, and in a similar way, for example, suppose I have an integer object, and say I have like 3 plus, right? And so this gives, of course, this gives me an integer output, right? So this is giving me integer, right? So now, for example, let's say I want to say, oh, no, I want the output to be a floating point. I want to represent it as a floating point object, right? So I can again say I can cast it into a float by passing into float. I take this thing and float. Now it's a floating object. Or I can say print, right? If I want to say print result, I have some calculation, result equal to I have, this is my thing. I want to say I want to represent it into 2 decimal point, right? So I made it as a floating point number, right? And then I get this, right? So now remember the string so the formatted print, right? We can use the %f format because it's a floating point number, and we do that, right? And we get many. So finally what we can do, we can do 0.2, right? 2 decimal places. So we can represent things like that. And again, if you look at here, now I use comma, right? We learned comma, different objects I can separate by comma in a print statement. So, but we can also, if you are more interested to do, like we want to concatenate here and print, I can say, I can't print now because the right side is a float. How do we do? I pass into a string object, right? And so if you look at the whole thing now is what is the type of the whole, this thing here? Here, it is what? It is a string, yes, even though it looks like a floating point number. So in another scenario, for example, this was what from between int, we took int and represented it as a float, right? So in a different scenario, you also may ask me going other way around. For example, in our case, say for example, we know we have Fahrenheit equal to Celsius, right, times 9 by 5 plus 32, right? So if I take, say, 21 degrees centigrade, 9 by 5 plus 32, right? Now suppose I say, no, I don't care about the decimal here in this case, and I want you to tell me only the integer part, truncate it, throw it away. So I can basically represent this whole thing which is into an integer, cast into an integer. And now what we get, 69, right? So we can do a similar, we can perform a similar, we can throw the decimal part away and cast it into an integer. And in the case of our like the compound interest calculation, right? Right, this one, for example, right? So this case, for example, right? For example, I need to say, for example, I say that I only want the integer. This one prints this one, right? I only say, I'm not, just let me talk about only 80. So just throw about all the decimal part and tell me, and I want to see the output. In the output, what I want to see is there, truncate it. So just delete everything after the decimal point. So I say I have a string. I can take this object, right? I make it as an integer, right? So now this whole thing, all the calculation is converted into an integer, and then let's print this is 80. So again here, so we have multiple conversion, right? So integer, and then we convert it into a string, and then we add. So this is a very, so we have very simple thing, right? So we said we took a string and say make it as an integer, right? And we took make it as a string and made it an integer, or I can say it's 2.5 and I made it into a float. And so we basically used int, str, and type, and we also used float. So so we can use all these tools for our convenience to convert and represent the output, or as and when they will be needed in our calculations. And so let's say, for example, let us do a simple exercise. So we have, say, I want to say print, say, our say the multiplication table for, say, 2, right? So I want this, and then let's do, so 1 times 2 equal to 2, right? 2 times 2 equal to 4, right? I keep going. That is not really nice. I keep going, right? And then say 10 times 2 equal to 20, and so on. So this is what I want. So how do we format it? So what we do, we say 1 times 2 equal to 2, which is 1 times 2, right? Let us say I make it string. I can cast this as a string, and then I can concatenate x. I can make it as a x. I can make as a as a string. I would give some space on either sides, and this guy is an integer. I made it as a string, and then we keep on concatenating, and again a plus, and here this is, I can make it as a string, and casting it as a string, and then here is a fraud, right? This is 1 times 2. The output of 1 by 2, I made it into a string. So we have this. So I can suppose now if I take the same thing, right, and if I do the same, repeat it, right, say if I make it say 10 times 2 equal to 10 times 2, right? What did I do? Yeah. Oh, I didn't do. So which one? So this is the output which will, yeah, this is what I want. So let's say take that one which worked, and then Control O, and then take this guy, and suppose if I do 10 times 2 equal to 10 times 2, right? So but I can't see, the ideally prints the last thing, or IPython, so I can put a print so that I can see both lines. So this is what we have, right? So we can see slightly there's an offset, right? Printing out, this is only the printing part. So let us make it, so we know we can do what? We can format it, we can justify to the right all the things which will go here. The 10, the first digits is going to go in 2 digits, and the right side is also going to go to 2 digits at some point. So we can take both of them and say this string, first one, right? So how do I format, string formatting, right? So I do percentage, first object, percentage s, it's a string, so I can do take 2 spaces, and similarly I can take this, right, and I can do it here, right? Same thing, and I can do it here, and I can do it here as well, right? Let's see. So now it's much better. So we can keep on doing this, and we can create the multiplication table. Let's do it. For example, we can so we'll take these 2 lines, right, and we go here, right? We say I'm using VI editor. This is multiplication table for 2, right? So that's right. This is a multiplication table for 2, say. So we had already done the work. The only thing I just, so we got that one, right? So we can put some, right, we need some output, some style, and all the thing. So true, there is no space, right? So remember, we can put a new line character and all those stuff. Yeah, so we have this now, nothing, right? Simple. So we do what? We can use the same idea, and we'll do all the right. So this is going to be 9, this is going to be 8, this is going to be 7, 6, 5, right, 4, 3, 2, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So this line, yeah. So again on this side 2, right? 2 3 4 5. Oh no. So which one we exchange? 1. Yeah, this is the one, right? I'm right. So this is 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9, right? I'm right. Yeah, so this is our output. Like, you know, we can, so we have the multiplication table for 2 and start with the new line character. We already learned that. So if you look at that, so we have seen that we have used almost everything that we learned so far. We have used a print statement, and we are printing a string. The whole thing is a string, and we are using the property of string addition, which is string concatenation, which is called. And then we are using the formatted printing with the %s, or we can use %f, %d for decimal, like integers. And we are also using the type conversion, the string as in string 10, and in a little bit more or a complex way is 10 times 2. The result of that is converted into a string. So we used almost everything that we used so far. So this is our, maybe let's say our version 1, right? So we keep it. So we used all those thing to write this small piece of code and get the output. So this discussion was about Python types and type conversion, and I believe it was easy to follow. And thank you very much for watching.